Well, good morning still. If you're just hopping on, we're going to wait a few more minutes. We were just making sure all of our equipment was working, but we'll probably start about 5 minutes after.
I think this is all our people. Is it gonna get wet?
Yeah, I think so.
Dial in.
Well, if you're just hopping on, we're going to wait a few more minutes before we start, but maybe somebody would give us an audio check and a video check. Maybe just reply that you can hear us and see us okay.
I can hear you okay.
All right. And
Thanks.
the video's okay?
Videos look great.
Great.
Why, thank you.
Dear.
All right, so we have 12 o'clock right here. What we're going to do is we're going to wait another 5 minutes for people to show up. And just to let you know, Darren and I are sitting in my office. We're in building 41 on Cal Poly's campus here. We're actually looking out my window to the west, and we can see the ominous clouds coming in from the west. So we're anticipating rain here soon. If anybody wants to ask a question or text a question there on the chat window, go ahead and do that, and we'll just wait another few minutes before we officially start.
should have got a booster seat.
Yeah, good. You want to switch it? Let's try switching.
Is that
how
one taller?
works. Yeah, it's a little taller.
Is it? Also, it's way more comfy too.
Is that better?
Let's see. Oh yeah. I feel big now.
Yeah.
Important. Leather chair. My wife and I are the same height. She always has to like make sure I'm not on the down slope. I'll take pictures.
So just another couple minutes before we get started.
Again, feel free to ask questions in the chat or ask questions online if you want while we're waiting.
All right, great. I'm glad you're able to find some things that were useful there. One more minute, we'll get going. All right, so we have 5 minutes after, so maybe we'll get going. So I'm Kurt, this is Darren right here, and really there's just a couple things we want to try to do in this info session today. The first thing is we're here to answer questions, right? So probably you've looked at the web page, you've seen some of the marketing, you've gotten some of your questions answered that way, but we're really here primarily to answer your questions. We've got a couple of videos, so we could show you some videos that were created in the marketing effort, and they talk a little bit about the structure of the program. We have lots of questions and answers that students have asked, and especially from my experience over the years doing these online type classes. So we're using the technology, the Zoom technology that we'll use for this program. So just to give you an example of how that works, but feel free to ask any questions that way. So maybe we'll start out with Darren. Would you just give maybe a 1 or 2 minute intro to yourself and kind of how you got into cloud computing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was involved in Cal Poly's transformation to the cloud. Cal Poly announced 2 years ago that we were going to move our aging data center completely over to AWS. So I kind of helped architect and lead the design of that solution, and then took a job recently at the Digital Transformation Hub, where I get to work every day in cloud technologies, building lean prototypes for customers. So I've had both experience migrating an infrastructure and also working with the technology on a daily basis.
And I'm a professor in industrial engineering. I've been at Cal Poly for 21 years, and so I've done everything related to industrial engineering. Cloud is that about 2.5 years ago, Darren introduced, he actually solved a problem in one of my classes using a cloud computing solution. And that kind of just gave me a glimpse of what was possible. And I learned a little bit more when we offered the class the next year. And then Darren and I really made a connection, and we've done a lot more since then. And so for about 2 years now, Darren and I have kind of been working a lot with cloud technologies and learning how to teach these programs and learning how to solve problems and apply them. And so the reason we really like to work together is I kind of come at it from an engineering standpoint and engineering problem solving, and Darren really comes at it from a technologist and a deep background in software development. So Darren is very much the brainiac technologist, and I kind of come at it from the engineering and the teaching side. So that's the reason we're doing things together.
Kurt's modest, though. He also has a lot of experience in designing courses, and we really worked a lot together on how to offer the right combination of both intro level, because the idea is this professional certificate program. I had a similar experience when I first graduated from school. I got into industry and was working for Boeing and had a need to learn programming quickly. My degree was in physics, and the industry was demanding software engineering skills. So University of Washington offered a 3-quarter certificate program that was intended to take people with not a tremendous amount of background in software engineering, and in 3 quarters quickly get them to learn the essentials and get them productive. And so Kurt and I were kind of brainstorming. I thought, maybe this right now, cloud technology is in such high demand, we're seeing a huge shortage in the market. We thought this might be the perfect thing. Someone either looking to transition from maybe a different career, or to build maybe more professional level skills based on where they're at today. A lot of these paradigms in cloud are new, so we need to sort of figure out how to get people there. So we worked together to design the course, and Kurt was instrumental in figuring out which pieces to offer when, so that we actually have the first course in the series of Cloud Practitioner is designed for anyone really that not necessarily with a tech background. If you have a tech background, that's a huge advantage. But this course doesn't require a computer science degree or a huge background in technology. And so with that first level of course, we teach the fundamentals of AWS, the core services, get you used to that. And then we offer that second course in the series, which is more of an advanced architecting course. And then we go from there to specialty topics. There are a number of specialty certifications in AWS, and we kind of highlight a few of those each for a few weeks to kind of get your feet wet and decide if there's a particular specialty cert you want to go in. So we feel like it's a well-balanced program, and the whole program as a whole can start, you can start from nothing and end up with, a set of credentials that industry values right now.
So maybe we'll pause for a minute and see if there's any questions out there. And so I'll just be quiet for a few minutes and let you ask questions. For many faculty, the silence is sometimes awkward. I'm pretty used to that, so I don't mind being having an awkward silence. So I'm going to sit for just another minute and see if any questions come up. If not, then we'll move on.
Hi there. I do have a question. So
Sure.
the FAQ, this is Yumi Sprague.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Darren.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So hi, Kevin. So I have found all the information that I've been looking to find, except the pricing on the courses, or the package, the 3 course program, I suppose. and I'm not able to find that information easily. Do you have that, or?
We're having to look it up right now just because we don't deal with that much.
Okay, gotcha.
I did see it at one point. So
I think if you
a
register,
Yeah.
I think someone else might is someone from Extended Ed on the call that could answer that. Otherwise, we can go to register.
Yeah, or you can send me that information later on.
Sure.
I'm thinking that
Oh, there it is. Tuition. The base level tuition is $1,200 for each course. There is a discount given for alumni, and obviously, Cal Poly as well. Yeah, I'm getting it on the chat here. So yeah, Cal Poly alum and Cal Poly staff also get a discount. The discounted price, I don't remember. Britta, do you happen to know that? 15% off. There we go. Wonderful.
Oh, awesome. Great. Thank you.
We did mute some folks, so if you think you're talking, just wanted to let you know that just to mute the noise, we did mute several of you. So if you do have a question, make sure your mic is off of mute so you can ask your question. David asked a question. We can answer that now. Do you compare AWS with Google Cloud? And the answer is we discuss in general cloud technologies. We don't do specific comparisons with Google compared to AWS. We do focus, our material is through AWS. So the bulk of the material that we will present is specific to Amazon, but the general concepts are applicable to other cloud platforms. But we'd be happy to entertain questions if someone in the class was familiar with Google and wanted to know the analogy in Amazon or whatnot. We'd be happy to entertain that during class. Did that answer your question, David? Great.
So let's talk about this technology we're communicating with right now. So what this would be is this would be a synchronous class meeting where we all hop online together, and we have this interface where we can, if you bring your webcam, we can have kind of a Brady Bunch screen and look at each other and interact that way. Often students just bring a microphone so that they can interact with their voice and we can hear them and they can hear us, and that's kind of an online meeting. And then what we have the ability to do is we have the ability to share our screen. So you're looking at my webcam right here, but then in a minute here we'll share the screen. We have some videos, or maybe we have some PowerPoints or images we want to put up and talk about. So it'd be an online meeting is kind of how our synchronous class meetings would go. And we would hold those, on a regular scheduled weekly basis, just like you would be attending a class in person. So we'll have synchronous meetings. We also then have the ability to record these meetings. So we're recording this meeting right now. And what we often do is we just dump it to a video file and upload that raw file to YouTube, and then make that link available to everybody in the class. So if you had to miss the synchronous class meeting, at least we captured what happened, and you can go back and kind of scrub through it and determine what part is important to you. So that's how we kind of handle the synchronous class meetings. And if you have to miss a meeting, then you can watch the video.
And all the details are through a learning management system. We use Canvas. So, step by step, the syllabus, your assignments for that day. So if you missed, not only will you see sort of an interaction video, but you can also go step by step through the material. And that's the same thing we will present in class.
And so we often talk about that part of it as the asynchronous content. And that would be where you can go do that on your own anytime you want. It's always available, and you would work on your homework and your online things, whenever you have time to do it. So we'll pause again for a question.
Do you have a schedule in mind for when you're going to do the live sessions?
Yeah, we do. Do you remember it?
I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evening. The exact start time I can't recall. I think it was 4 or 5 to 6:30 or something like that. It was we wanted to do 2.5 hours twice per week.
Yeah, we do have it scheduled. It's something like
Oh, there we go. 4 to 6:30.
4 to 6:30 on Tuesday, Thursday.
Yep.
Is that right, Britta? We think it's Tuesday, Thursday.
Yep, Tuesday, Thursday.
Well, maybe
So
we'll go ahead.
when do you plan to offer the first class? And what is the schedule like? Is there a break in between, I suppose, you know, a couple weeks break in between? How would that work?
She's talking about the 3 different courses.
Yeah, so
Yes.
there is a break in between. We will loosely follow Cal Poly's academic calendar. We have shortened the duration to 8 weeks instead of 10, so we'll start a week or so after and finish a week early. So, you know, we can look up those exact dates, but that's generally the idea. And because we're taking, you know, a week at the end and a week at the beginning, that'll give you a nice break. I think 3 or 4 weeks with winter break at least, or spring break's 1 week long. So you'll have at least 3 weeks off for winter. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. So Pat asked a question about, are there any additional costs about the class? So the resources we have at our disposal is Amazon is so interested in getting their content and learning out there that they've allocated us some resources. And those resources are basically written materials, so PowerPoint slides and notes, and then also some online training. So that's a collection of online videos, online slides that you go through, online assessments, and then some lab environments where you basically log on to the Amazon console and you create and configure and do kind of pre-scheduled labs, hands-on labs as we go.
Should we tell them about the structure?
Yeah, tell them about the structure, sure.
So the class is basically taught like a flipped model with Amazon providing a lot of the course content. We felt like that content was valuable and well done. So you'll typically get to watch the lecture portion with the notes at home at your leisure. And then we use the class time to focus on prepping you for exam questions. We actually ask a lot of detailed questions in real time about the material. We use a polling system where we can collect your feedback. And then the areas where students struggle, we deep dive into those areas and you know, we whiteboard and get into a discussion around the areas that were tricky. The live polling really lets us evaluate in real time kind of where you guys are at with the material so that we can reinforce those areas where you're struggling.
And so back to Pat's question about additional costs, about the only thing I can think of is sometimes when it comes to prepping for the exam,
Right.
you might buy something like an online exam, practice exam. I bought an app for my iPad that has a bunch of questions built in, and I think I paid $5 or $6 for that app. So those kind of small costs to maybe do class prep, but in terms of the content for the course credit, no other costs.
Yeah, we'll cover one practice exam for you. We'll ask lots of questions as well that are exam-related questions. We'll offer a discount on the certification itself. So if you do want to go and pursue the Amazon certification, which I'd highly recommend, obviously our courses are geared for that, there is an exam cost. And so for the practitioner level exam, it's $100. We'll offer a 50% discount, so that'll only cost you $50 out of pocket. And then the advanced level, there is a $150 exam fee. That will also cover 50% off, so you'd be out of pocket $75. No problem.
Well, if you are considering doing this program, we want to make sure you kind of get the big picture of it. And so they helped us create a video that tries to paint the whole picture. So let me see if I can share that with you right now. Stand by. And we're going to play this video.
We try to paint a picture of the holistic view. So we have these three courses. We have fundamentals, which leads to architecture, which leads to specialty. Following each of those courses, there's a possible AWS certification. First one is cloud practitioner. The second one is cloud solution architect. The third one has several categories of data from machine learning, artificial intelligence, data management, or development. So those are the certifications that come. AWS certificates are separate that are administered by AWS itself. There are 5 fundamental certifications and specialty certifications. Those are administered through AWS. Our courses are intended to be very similar to the material that we draw from AWS material. Those courses lead to this professional certificate. It's the professional certificate that students' career. We have the cloud technologists. They would be the ones that go off on specialists. We also see the one interface.
They can barely hear. Is there a way to turn the volume up?
Or they interface with the cloud technologists. So that would be the interface. And the third category is the one that's, I'd say, most closely to my career as a professional engineer. That's something I call an somebody who is able to put your system on the structure, to collect data, analyze the data, and make good decisions.
Sorry about that. I guess the video was hard to hear. We can share the link to it, and you can watch it again later.
I feel like this course is better than.
Yep.
We'll post it in the chat so you can watch it later.
So it seems like often many questions revolve around, you know, if you're working full time or you have other commitments, sometimes it's hard to manage both a class with class meetings and all the obligations that go along with homework assignments and things like that. And what I'd say is I've done a lot of this kind of online with working professionals, and it ends up being not such a problem because we can record the synchronous class meetings, and students seem to be able to get along with those recordings. Of course, it's not quite the same as being in the conversation, but it seems to be a good workaround. And then the fact that the synchronous materials are online all the time. So of course you have to set aside, you know, the 5 hours of class time and then a couple, you know, 2 to 4 hours of homework. You know, that's ended up being 8 or 10 hours out of a week trying to take a class. And so there is a commitment that way, but at least in my past experience, people that enroll in something like this, they're pretty motivated to get it done. So see if there's any questions around attendance or course material completion.
We had some questions come in earlier. I can address some of those specifically related to the course material. So we kind of mentioned briefly that it's a sort of flip model where you get to kind of watch the material ahead of time and then we answer questions during class. But one of the things that Kurt and I do and we feel pretty passionately about is our experience learning Amazon material is they give you these labs that are fairly scripted. You go through the material and there's items in the bold and on the page, you click those and you get through the lab and wow, you've learned something. And I often, after the fact, sat scratching my head thinking, what did I learn there? So Kurt and I take those labs and administer those as well, but then we create what we call challenge labs. And these labs are going to be similar to real world problems you might encounter and will really force you to prove that you've learned the material. We don't just walk you through step by step. We give you hints and clues and we're available to ask questions, but it really allows you like you would in your job, after you take this course, you go back to your desk and we say, okay, go build a load balancer, or go build a redundant architecture, and you can take the materials that you've learned in class and apply those in a real world situation without, completely just walking you through step by step, forcing you to sort of prove that you understand the material. There was a question from Steve about how many students do we expect to have in the class. I think the max enrollment is around 20. I don't expect to see more than 20. I think we're a little lower than that now. And then just one more question that we got over email ahead of this was, what different cloud technologies do we review? And again, this course is really centered around AWS, this cloud technology. We chose them for a variety of reasons, market leader, and then, obviously Cal Poly's migrating our stuff. We're the most familiar with that technology. The first series really focuses on the fundamentals. There are several core, technologies that you need to just begin to use the cloud in a productive way. So we kind of hit those hard in the first series. And then the second series, we start to build on those. We get into more advanced architecture, learn how to do scalable, elastic stuff, build more fault-tolerant systems. You really, the solutions architect certification is what that second course is geared towards. That really teaches you as an engineer how to fit all of the services Amazon offers into building solutions. We felt really strongly that Kurt and I are also developer certified, so we might bring in some of that content, but the solutions architect certification we felt was a great place to start. And then in the last series, there's going to be several different technologies that we bring in that are emerging cloud technologies. We're going to cover, we're going to do 2 weeks on each. Well, I guess a week and a half because of the way the 8-week quarter works. But big data, we're going to do some learning how to work with big data sets, ingest it. We're going to do some data analytics. We're going to help you with some data visualizations. Most modern problems today require some sort of interaction with large data sets. And then we're going to do an Alexa skill builder. We thought that was that's a specialty cert that I have a lot of experience in, so we thought that might be an interesting little section to teach. And then IoT, how to work with IoT devices. Kurt has a lot of experience with that. So you're going to get a really wide spectrum of the fundamentals and building the core, some strength and depth on those fundamentals, and then we're going to kind of in the last series play a little bit and just kind of skim the surface of some of these emerging technologies.
And I'll just add to it that the things Darren has just talked about, they all sound like pretty challenging technically. And one of the things that Darren and I have figured out to do is we figured out how to teach these concepts and these skills to students that don't have much IT background. So my industrial engineers, while they have lots of engineering and math and physics and things like that, they don't have many computer or programming or IT infrastructure skills. So we got a lot of experience working with them. The last couple of years we've been over dealing with the business students, and they have even less exposure to IT infrastructure. And so we're pretty good at using lots of common analogies and introducing the concepts. And one of the greatest things about this cloud technology effort is that it makes these technologies accessible to us ordinary people without computer science degrees. So it's really exciting that these things are available and you don't have to be a programmer to use them.
A couple questions that were asked on chat. One of them is about the material. So just to repeat, we will provide an Amazon environment for you. You won't be expected to have your own AWS account, and all the materials will be provided. The only extras might be additional study guides you might want to purchase for exams. And then we are available outside of class time for office hours. We will hold regular office hours and also available by appointment. So we're pretty open and flexible in terms of meetings. So if you have questions, and we respond to email. Kurt's the early morning guy, I'm the late night guy. So if you have a question during the day, that we've pretty much got it covered.
Yeah, and one of the most effective ways, if you get stuck on something, we have an online discussion board on the online system, the learning management system. And what usually happens if we can convince students to post their question there, usually what happens is either another student or two or three respond with the same question, and that alerts Darren and I really quick to something's going wrong with the lab or something like that, and then we're right on trying to find a workaround or a solution. Or the other thing that happens that's great is sometimes another student will know the answer and they'll post it before we can get to it. So often that online question and answer thing happens pretty effectively, but there are situations and times too when a student just really needs some personal attention, and we're able to handle that too.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
Darren and Kurt, I think that I called you Kevin. Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that. So at the end of this 3-course, your completion of the 3 courses,
Yeah.
what are some of the core objectives that the attendee should have achieved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the course material is really geared around the AWS certifications. And so those certifications really prepare you as a professional IT individual, to build solutions using AWS technology, whether it's, large scale enterprise systems, all of the work that I did in helping Cal Poly migrate to the cloud, those types of skills I got through the certification program. And now, further on, as I build simple lean prototypes, using even more services, you'll have that background, because basically you're given the knowledge on how everything fits together, right? And you start with the core services. So after the first course, you can go off and launch some compute and do a compute job. But at the end, right, once you've gotten advanced, you'll learn the subtleties of how to build redundant architectures. And so, like, one of the things I do in my role at the DX Hub is I consult, right? So people on campus are coming to me with compute problems all day long, and I'm helping find the right solution, right? It's understanding there's a trade-off between cost and speed, and how to pick the right system for what. A lot of people, when they first get started with Amazon, they have a compute problem they need to solve, and so they'll go launch a large instance, and they'll get a big cost, and so things like that are tools that you'll gain from this certificate program, where you'll know how to right-size instances, you'll know how to scale, you know how to use batch compute. I mean, you're learning the whole ecosystem and how those services fit together. So you really are kind of like a technology architect, an engineer that can build solutions. And that's what Kurt alluded to before is, we feel really smart now that I go to, when we're going to build a solution for a client, we reach into our back pocket and just pull out an Amazon tool, and we have something to do. It's, a lot of the hard work and heavy lifting has been done for us now. They've commoditized compute in a way that no one's ever done before. So, the real knowledge is learning all these services. And, if I can use an analogy, like when you first learn a programming language, right, you learn how loops work, you learn how control structures work and data structures. Then you can go off and program, hello world something. But after you get to the next level, you start to learn about all the class libraries that have been written to do bigger things. And then it's in using those libraries that you can now do, enterprise level solutions. It's kind of the same with Amazon. That first course is the basics on, you can go do simple solutions after we teach you the fundamentals. But after you get through the advanced course and then these emerging technologies, you'll be able to build robust enterprise solutions.
And I'll just say it a little bit, I'll say the same thing, but a little bit shorter. But the way I see engineering is, engineers, what they do is they solve problems using science and technology. The science part is using a scientific method to kind of evaluate exactly what the problem is, and then to come up with an experiment or a design on what you think will solve the problem. And then the technology to use is this new cloud computing way to look at things. And so very simply is, we're going to teach you how to solve technical computing problems using cloud technologies. That's the objective of the whole program.
Awesome, thank you.
So Steve just asked a question that maybe Britta could help with. I'm signed up. When should I expect to get info on how to attend the online classes? Are they also done through Zoom? So yes, all the classes will be done through Zoom. You'll get both an invite to our learning management system, and you'll get an invite to the Zoom sessions. I think eventually we'll get a list of registered students, and then we'll directly reach out. So your point of contact will be Kurt and I, either one of us, and we'll reach out directly. We're just waiting for the registration process to finish, and then they'll give us a list of students. So in the short term, you can reach out to us even. We can help answer questions now.
All right, so I have 36 minutes after. Is there anything else, Darren, you wanted to address?
Let me look at the email question.
Yeah, that one I saw there was, what different cloud technologies will you review? And so Darren's alluded to there's some core we're going to do, but then Amazon has something like more than 150 different web services. And it is just so fun to pick and choose the ones that we find interesting and useful and things like that. So we'll kind of pick and choose as we go. We'll be listening for students to say, hey, I need to do this at my work. Can we come up and talk about this concept? So there's just this huge smorgasbord of web services to sample from.
Yeah, Kurt and I are pretty flexible. We really appreciate it when students bring issues to class that we can use as teaching examples. So keep that in mind.
I would say one advantage to being a teacher and a faculty member for so long is you just don't get too worried about what's going to happen in class. You just kind of learn to roll with the punches and prepare what you can, and then just react to things that don't. And so luckily, Darren and I have enough experience that we're not so worried about struggles in class. We've done it enough that we know how to work our way through those.
So there was another question about, is there anything you can do to prepare for our class? So it does help to have a basic overview of just, sort of compute fundamentals. I don't know, you can maybe describe it a little better, but, a little bit of networking is helpful, what a hard drive is, what a computer is. That we'll cover all that, but if you have that background, that's helpful. But what I would say actually this week is reInvent. So normally I've gone to reInvent the last 4 years. It's their annual conference where they announce all of their new services and improvements to existing services. Last year they announced 1,700 new things. We heard 150 services. By the end of this week, we will have more services. I promise you that. All of their sessions are available via YouTube. So you just go and subscribe to an AWS channel, and then you can watch some of those. And they have intro level ones to advanced ones. I would highly recommend you guys go check those out, and maybe watch a few that are interesting to you to kind of get your feet wet and get an idea of the kinds of things the cloud can do for you. That's a great way to get started.
But again, we are used to people coming with virtually no IT background. So if that's you, that's okay. We got it covered.
Darren and Kurt, you me again. So if I have, let's say, multiple people within my department that I'm interested in training, having training, receiving training by you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering if there's another pricing model or another option that is more economical, that I could have more people go through the training all at once.
Yeah, we can talk to Britta and see what options exist for like a group discount and how many we have to hit to get the group discount. I'm sure that's available. We can work with you on that. I will say one of the other questions that was asked was, are there any other training opportunities for people that are on campus? And we actually have some good news. Amazon has chosen Cal Poly as the first Amazon training partner as a public institution. There are hundreds of Amazon training partners, but never before has a public institution been selected. So that was announced, I think, recently. And would you guess, Kurt and I are going to be certified Amazon training partner instructors. That course is a little bit different. It's a little more intense, and it's a lot more money, I guess. We have to kind of charge corporate rates. But if you are interested in a shorter duration, very intense, kind of run through the services very quickly, I can recommend that. I don't know when the first course will be offered. I know they're starting to offer those now. Our course is over 8 weeks, and we have a little bit more time to get into more depth. So depending on what meets your training needs, you might want to look for an upcoming ATP course. You can just search for Amazon training, and you'll see that the types of courses they're offered there.
I would say for our team, I think this 8-week program would work best.
Yeah, I tend to enjoy that program. It's a fun program.
Yeah, we kind of have found that if you feed things a little bit slower, they stick better. I actually attended one of the 3-day ATP courses, and it was just death by PowerPoint is kind of how I described it. I didn't recall much. It took me having to go back and do all the learning on my own. I didn't get a lot out of that 3 full days. All right, maybe a last call, or you got some more questions?
I don't know. Let's see. Did we cover everything?
Talked about prerequisites.
Will these classes help me prepare for the certification exams? Which ones? So just to say it again, the first course is directly tied to the cloud practitioner. The second course is directly tied to the associate solutions architect. And then the third course introduces subjects that are related to specialty certs. Yeah, I mean, just in general, that the reason we're offering these courses is Amazon is telling us, and the industry is telling us, that the demand is high. So certification, I added, as soon as I got certified, I added my certs to my LinkedIn and get regular job offers now as a result. There is a huge shortage of certified individuals. So I think this course and then the subsequent follow-up Amazon cert will definitely help with that. I think. So is there a vertical we focus on? We tend to focus on the architecting one versus DevOps, but we're both developer certified and be happy to cover some of that if the majority of the class really wants to hit some of those concepts. There is a significant overlap in the material between the developer certification and the solutions architect, and so we would be happy to highlight some of those differences if you're interested in a developer cert. I think that covers it.
Any final questions before we hang up for the day? It's the first time Darren and I have tried to do this as a team in the same room, and we're not quite sure how it works. We're usually just one head on our own screen, so we'll have to go back and see how it worked. All right, we're going to give it one last chance. So the last 15 seconds to ask a question, otherwise we're going to take off.
Awesome.
All right, thanks for everything.
We're excited.
Hope to see you in class.
Thanks.
Thank you.